Okay. Can she see this? Yeah. So speak presenter here and then that television. Okay. Can she see this? Okay. So speak presenter here and then that television. Can she see this? Okay. Speak presenter here and then that. The thing about being in the it all comes over. See, we don't have to actually like it. It's not all telling us. This is if it makes any questions, always cut it back. Looks like we have just about everyone. Good evening. My name is Reggie Mullis. I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at the Hearthstone. I want to welcome everyone here. I want to just quickly, before we officially start, recognize the residents that are here, not by name, but one by name, and that is Therese Atkinson. Therese, if you'll stand, she's in the third row here. She is our current resident council president, and so she's very much involved in these types of activities. Her vice president of that council is sadly enjoying the sunny beaches of Santa Barbara right now, so he could not be here with us. Guarantee you he's watching. And on that note, we are simulcasting out to residents in our community, all of our independent living residents and assisted living residents. Anyone that has a television can tune to channel 370 and they're able to watch this broadcast live. We also have a Zoom meeting going down here. We have a couple of people that couldn't be with us in person, but we wanted them to be able to join and to listen in. And so in addition to Therese, we also have the rest of our resident council leadership group, as well as representatives from each of the floors. We call them floor chairs. Over in the Cove buildings, we call them floor chairs, but they're the chair for each of those buildings. So if you're here tonight, would you also stand up, our floor chairs and our resident council leadership group? Absolutely. I will say, and I've told Therese and Frank this, you know, having done this for 26 years, I've never worked with a more active, responsible, encouraging group as we have in the council here. They bring everything to our attention. We can't take action or correct problems unless they do bring information to us, so they're really great about that. With that, then, I'm going to ask our current chaplain, Pastor Leslie Moran, to come and give our invocation.
Thank you, Reggie. Good evening. Our reading comes from Philippians 2. If then there is any encouragement in Christ, any consolation from love, any sharing in the Spirit, any compassion and sympathy, make my joy complete. Be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Look, each of you, look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. Tonight we gather to do the business of the annual meeting for the Hearthstone. It is an awesome task, one that takes great preparation and anticipation. People are called, emailed, invited, and reminded to come to this meeting so that the work and the mission of the Hearthstone can continue to thrive in the community of Green Lake in Seattle. The founding churches have each sent representation from their congregations to this gathering so that tradition of faith continues. And as we gather in the name of the triune God, we do so with the full intention of furthering the mission of the Hearthstone in the community. These words from Philippians remind us of what it means to be cooperative with one another. More, it speaks to us of what it means to work willingly, with one mind, that mind being in Christ, who calls, gathers, and enlightens us in this place. Let us pray. Loving God, in holy baptism you have gathered us together across all the human divisions and have reconciled us to yourself in one body through the cross. Strengthen us now by your presence, that our thoughts and actions may be rooted and grounded in your love for us. You have called us to labor in your vineyard, and without you we can do nothing. Grant us your gracious presence at this meeting, that what we do all will build up your whole church. Let your Holy Spirit govern and direct us, that we may consult together peacefully, pleasing you with all that we say and do, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Leslie. Before I introduce our primary leader here tonight, a couple of things. One is housekeeping. Right across from reception, there's a long hallway. If you go down that hallway, the only turn to the right is where our restrooms are located, so in case you need to find those. In addition, tonight's meeting, live meeting, and simulcast represent really a new phase for us and there's no such thing as post-COVID, but in the latter years of COVID, we are excited to be able to bring people in from the outside, visitors from the outside, to have our residents gather. We've had a couple of 3 different meetings where we've allowed residents to come in. You still see the social distancing markers. I've been told next week we might be able to take those out too. But we continue to mask, we continue to stay safe, we continue to emphasize vaccinations and just general, good practice in terms of infection control. It's very important to us, especially considering we operate a skilled nursing area, assisted living, and memory care, and those are sometimes more frail and more at-risk residents. So we're glad to have you here to be a part of that. With that, I'll introduce our chairman of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Lee Coors.
Okay, I was told I can take this off up here, so that's a good thing. Good evening. Thank you for attending this meeting. It is great to be here. It is great to physically be in the Hearthstone. The last couple of years, it's been rough on everybody, residents, workers, families, visitors, the board. We just finished off our February board meeting, and it is so wonderful to be here to interact with you and to see what truly God has in store for us and continues to have in store for us as the Hearthstone. As you know or may not know, in the mid-'60s was when this facility started. It was started by a group of founding congregations. They were from the ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, and Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, LCMS. And those are our founding members. And you see there's the list. When I read your congregation's name, we have at least one representative from each congregation. The representatives you see here, they're going to be the ones that are going to vote. We're going to have 3 things we have to vote on as part of the business meeting. They're the ones that vote. The board doesn't vote. You residents don't vote. This is part of the founding congregation responsibility, is to vote for these things coming up. So, Luther Memorial, Phyllis Swenson, are you here? There she is right there. Hi, Phyllis. First Lutheran Richmond Beach, Sylvia and Tim. I see them there. Holy Spirit Lutheran, that's Jack. I'll wave at Jack. He's on the camera down there. 7400 Woodlawn, Pastor Tanis. There we are. Or Tanis, whatever. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Finney Ridge Lutheran, Pastor Brian Hansen and Jackie Buckus. There we are. Good evening. Magnolia Lutheran, Linda Johnson. She's over here. And University Lutheran, Jack Hatlin. There's Jack. Hi, Jack. Good evening. From the LCMS congregations, we have Messiah Lutheran, Susie Paith. There she is. And we have Lamb of God Lutheran, Christine Raymer. Somewhere. Oh, there she is over there. Oh, she might be online. We'll check. Okay. There's a couple more congregations that couldn't make it today to have representatives. Oh, perfect. Perfect. We'll get your name afterwards. Great. I'm going to make that note. Hot off the press. Great. Okay. Let's give them a round of applause. I also mentioned that we just finished off our board meeting. I'd like to introduce the board members, the board of trustees, not the board of directors, the board of trustees. And I'd like those people to stand as I call their name. There are 3 of them who are online. You don't need to stand up if you're online. Caitlin Grant, Ann Melvin, and Kari Rollo. They were in our meeting virtually, and they're in this meeting virtually. The members present are Harry Edmond, Carol Redfield, Karin Daniels, Mike Olden, over there, Elise Scott, Doug Custer, Terry Higbee is also online. Sorry, I missed that. And then I'm the chair, Lee Kors. Thank you for what you do as the Board of Trustees. I'm now going to ask Elise Scott to come up. We talked about the 3 motions or votes that we have to have. So when she calls for the question, just a reminder that this is where the delegates will speak. The board doesn't vote and the residents don't vote. This is the delegate. So Elise, if you can come up and take us through these, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm very short, sorry y'all. The first thing we have to vote on is very simple. It's the approval of the minutes from last year. So it is hereby resolved that the Board of Trustees meeting in regular session is authorized to approve and adopt the minutes of the February 16th, 2023 annual meeting of the Lutheran Retirement Home of Greater Seattle, and that said minutes be made part of the records of this organization. Is it so moved?
Did you say 2023?
Oh, I did. Sorry.
It should be 2020.
Oh, yes, because it's this current meeting. Perfect. So, yes. So, is it so moved? All right, and can I get a second? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstaining? And it passes. Thank y'all. And then the next thing we have to vote on is an amendment to Article 6, Section 2 of the bylaws, I believe. And it's Articles of Incorporation. And the board approved this change, but y'all have to approve it for it to actually go to the Secretary of State. And basically the change is the previous Articles of Incorporation said that there shall be a combined minimum of 10 members from the 2 jurisdictional units referred to in Article 2, which of course are the ELCA and the LCMS. And what we are proposing to change it to is just a majority of the board shall be from the 2 jurisdictional units. And then, Mark, if I may call on you, I don't know the proper Robert Rules of Order. Should discussion be held? Should I go ahead and move? Should I open it for any discussion before I move? Okay, so would somebody like, do I do it or should somebody? Okay, I so move that we change Article 6, Section 2 of the Articles of Incorporation from there shall be a combined minimum of 10 members from the 2 jurisdictional units referred to in Article 2 hereof, with at least 2 members from each jurisdictional unit, to a majority of the board shall be from the 2 jurisdictional units referred to in Article 2 hereof, with at least 2 members from each jurisdictional unit. May I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Yes? They can be from other denominations or no denomination at all. So, but there would have to be at least a majority from the ELCA and I think because Harry, it's been a while since we discussed it. We discussed it at our November meeting.
Basically, the reason is because we don't have, and find it very hard to find 10 members to be from the Lutheran churches. And we want to keep it a majority so that it's still under the control of Lutheran churches, but we feel that this would allow us to bring in other members with other skills that are not necessarily Lutheran.
Yes? That is still included, yes. And in fact, we still have business people on the board. And a variety of faiths represented. Yes? All right, all in favor?
The delegates have to vote.
All in favor? All opposed? Any abstaining? The motion so passes. And then the final vote is very simple. We just need to vote for the reelection of 2 of our board members whose terms are up for reelection. Ann Melvin, who is with us online, and Harry Edmond, who is right there in the front row. I so move that Ann Melvin and Harry Edmond be reelected for another 3-year term. Second? Any discussion? From 2023 to 2026? Is that? So amend the motion so that it's, I move that Ann Melvin and Harry Edmond be reelected for another 3-year term to be served between 2023 and 2026. Can I get a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstaining? The motion so passes. Thank you all so much. That ends the voting section of our meeting.
Great job, Alexa. I'm glad our board or the delegates don't discriminate against business people. That's good. Nice job, Pastor Elise. Thank you. So our next section is a financial report for last year's finances, our operation for last year, the year of 2022. And I've asked our Chief Financial Officer, Jack McKittrick, to come and make that presentation. So You don't need these, right? Okay, you can just ignore it and I'll click you through. Well, that's you right there.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? All right, great. I'm Jack McKittrick. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll go through this part of the presentation. Here's an overview of the things that I'll be discussing. Moving to the next slide. The first one is the financial results cash flow basis. These numbers are in thousands. So as we look at 2021 versus 2022, you can see we have our, oops, wrong button. Our columns here, we have dollar change and percent change. 2021, you can see we had a total operating revenue of $18,264,000. 2022, we have an operating revenue of $15,556,000. The big reason for that is our investment income from our portfolio, and I'll show you the little bit of a breakdown of that a little bit later on in the presentation. We've decreased in valuation about $4 million. The market conditions over the last year just has, gone down at least 20 to 25% in a lot of different areas in the market. Our operating expenses on a cash flow basis were pretty even, $16.9 million versus $16.898. So we're trying to hold expenses. As we look at other things below the net operating margin, you can see 2021 we were 1.3 positive. This year we're 1.3 negative. Moving down below, we have other income, net entrance fees received. We have debt service, resident assistance, and capital expenditures. Our debt service went up about another $250,000, and our debt schedule, the principal amount, moved from when the Cove East was completed, and we met the requirements. Our first principal payment was about $250,000. Our next year jumped up to about $490,000, and then it kind of goes up a little bit over the next 32 to 35 years. I think our bond payments from when we had this is a 35-year term. The other side from here, we have our resident assistance. I'll go in that a little bit more, but last year we were about 219 in resident assistance. This year we've gone up to about 331. Overall net cash flow was in 2021 was $1,073,000. This year we're down about $1.6 million. Moving on to the next slide, here's our current investment. Overall, we still have total current investment of about $18.2 million. Last year in the presentation we were around $22 million. So I can kind of see where that $4 million has gone. Portion of that, the restricted use funds, that is the restricted funds that we have for our bond requirements. And it's usually your restricted funds are there for the last bond payment of the year. And it's just a requirement of the bonds that we hold. The other we have in our cash accounts, we have our memorial funds, which basically are donation funds that we've received. And then 80% is all in investments. We try to keep the portfolio and investments to, gain over time. Moving on to our next slide, here's our 2-year revenue service by trending line. The top line we have with the green line, this is our independent living fees. You can see we've kind of steadily gone up over the last 2 years on a month-to-month basis. We did have to do some increases. Last year we did a 5% increase. This year we did almost 6.7%. We have had a lot of costs rising with CPI this year, and in the city of Seattle, there's also the cost has gone up more than the national average. Our next one down here, this dotted line going here with the blue, you can see it going up and down a lot. This is our skilled nursing revenue. This one is census driven and payer mix, so you can kind of see we have a lot of just up and down, but that's where you have your high level care and you have a lot more movement in and out of that service product that we have. We are sitting, as we move to 2022, at a census of 26. We've been trying to do 30s, but the one thing that we've had an issue with is trying to keep staff enough to keep the level of care and service going. So we've maintained operationally going in 2023, 26 is a good level that we can hold our expenses and operations and still provide excellent level of care. Otherwise, the more you have to go above that, you have to add costs. Sometimes you have to use outside labor, but the cost to add to really break even after that is 4 or 5 residents. So we're trying to keep this at an operational level of 26. The next slide is our the yellow line. This is our assisted living and memory care. You can see in the beginning of this slide, We kind of started going down from 21 till the end of 21 and in part of 22. Then we started to move up. As we started to move up, we started to have people move through the continuum as we go through here. Basically, people from independent living who have to move to a higher level of care will move through to the assisted living side. And that revenue is starting to increase as we have people move through the continuum. And then you see that our independent living did not go down. It means we didn't have people move out, and we didn't backfill, and people didn't move in. So that's a positive sign. Moving to our next slide, this is a pie chart of our operational expenses. Overall, we have resident assistance as about 2% of our expense. The healthcare center is 23%. Assisted living is about 10%. Dining services is 22%. Our facilities and maintenance is about 13%. And our general administration is about 30%. But that number also includes benefits that we have for employees, utilities, what's the other one I'm thinking? Insurance and utilities is the other one, I think. Did I say those correct? I think there's one more that I'm missing, and I'm going to look at my notes. So, all right, benefits, insurance, property taxes was the other one that we have in there. That's really not a G&A. That's the one I was missing. So, okay. Moving on, this is our 2022 census. So this was our census average for the year. We have Cove West, we're sitting just under 100%, right around 97. Cove East, right around 95, 96%. The independent living, that's the Lakeside building. That's the building that you're currently in here. And you can see we're hovering right about 92%, which is really good because as we go, overall independent living over the last year and a half has been sitting at above 90%, and that's good within the industry. Assisted living, we're at about 72%. Our memory care, we're at 50%. Memory care will swing a little bit as we go. We only have 12 units, and it's based on the need. We do not take people from direct admits from outside the organization. Most of the time, we'll have people from move through our continuum and go to the memory care from the population that we have at the Hearthstone. And then skilled nursing is the same way as well. We are capped, like I told you before, we are going to keep that at an operational level of 26 as we move forward from here. Our historical average by occupancy. As you can see, our assisted living, and 4 years ago, we were about less than 90, or just under 90%, and we kind of dipped down. Well, you can see that trend as it's starting to move up. As we got into it, we're about 72% right now in 2022. Memory care, you can see we're sitting at almost 90%. We probably had 10 to 11 people out of 12. We kind of dipped down. The orange years are kind of, and the gray years, kind of with COVID. I want you to guys think about that as well as you look at this chart. You have COVID during this time. And you see memory care, we're sitting at 50%, and which is about 6 people. At one point in time, though, we were down to 3. So just to let you know. The healthcare center, we have 40 beds. We're averaging anywhere from 60 in the 60%, but we move from 26 to 32, 34. We bounce around a little bit more, but our average is around the 65%. So then we go to our independent living side, and you can see the yellow where that's really up. Now the good thing is here, you see the yellow, we've basically held into the 90% while increasing our assisted living and other areas of census as we move forward. Cove East has around where we were in 2020, that's where we actually hit our operational goal for the bond requirements, and that's a good sign. So we're still maintaining in the 90%. And then Lakeside, you can see we kind of bounce above 90, we dip down below 90, get back up there, but we're holding pretty steady with that occupancy from there. Now the last slide is the resident assistance slide, and so right now from 21 to 22, we have 6 people currently who are receiving resident assistance. As you can see, this donations that we received in 2021, we had $56,000 of donation. This year we had $23,000. So we had a difference of $33,000. The board allocates $300,000 annually for uses for resident assistance right now. as we move forward, we can see what we spent. We spent $219,000 in 2021. This year, we had $331,000 of resident assistance. Residents who are on assistance, they're still paying their portion, but they're paying what they can afford. The Hearthstone is covering the rest. And that is part of the mission that we have at Hearthstone as well, going forward from there as you moved in. The other side with this, the board has started the Hearthstone Foundation, and they're in the works of getting that started, and that's one of the things that we're going to be using to help increase donations that we can help to for philanthropical, I can't pronounce that. The donations will help as we go to help people who funds may run out, as markets and prices increase and some people outlive their funds. And if they live to 105, hopefully I won't live to 105, my wife will, but as we go forward from there. So that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Jack. We had a little technical problem when we first came in, and that is that the slides I'm seeing are not the slides you're seeing, so I'm trying to coordinate from the front and back of the house. So they let me do the fun stuff this year. This is essentially a recap of some of the things that, as a team and as a body of residents here and with the board's support, that we've been able to accomplish, or were able to accomplish in 2023. One of the first that I'm most proud of is having Leslie Moran join us as a chaplain. We went for a long time without a chaplain, and it was just such a pleasure to find her, to have her join us. These are some photographs from her installation ceremony that we did out in our garden that was created over in Cove West. It was a beautiful ceremony. Board members were there. A lot of residents attended. We were so thankful and grateful to have Leslie with us. Speaking of Cove Gardens, the gentleman on the grass, that was literally the day that we dedicated the garden. And his name is Keith Arts. He's not here tonight. He wasn't one of the approved residents that could be here. But Keith really was the mastermind behind the garden that was built behind Cove West. And if you don't know the story, for some of you delegates that are here, there was a vacant lot that we purchased that was a part of the construction of Cove West. And Cove West is the oldest building, about going on 8 years, 7, 8 years old. So that lot was always full of construction materials, construction equipment, cranes, trucks, you name it. Well, they finished Cove West, and when they did, then they started on Cove East. And Cove East was finished about 3 years or so ago. That vacant gravel lot remained, and it was, again, full of debris, building materials, equipment, trucks, you name it. When Cove East was finally finished, then that lot sat vacant for a long time. And Keith and two of his close friends from Cove West, they formed a little committee, affectionately known as the Garden Committee. And over the course of more than a year, they worked with me, our Director of Facilities. We worked with the board with their permission and support, and they made something really fantastic there. I think there's one more slide. Yeah, so we dedicated that. And sorry, I can't remember the day, but it was during the summer. Clearly, you can see Lee there in short sleeves. But it was the culmination of so much hard work, not only from these three gentlemen that led that committee, but so many other residents that planted, that bought things. We had tremendous amount of donations. I will tell you that the board approved an amount early on before any construction started on the garden, and we quickly absorbed that entire amount and then some. I told Lee to hold on. And then the residents essentially passed the hat, and we had tremendous outpouring of the things that that made this garden special. In the photograph with Lee right there, those were temporary handrails. They're not there anymore. We had a resident just individually gave the money to purchase beautiful handmade wrought iron railings. They're quite fantastic to look at. I invite you to visit that garden if you're ever in the area during the day, ideally a warmer, drier day. But there's an alley between our two buildings, and those buildings, I get turned around that way. they're very similar looking in front, but there's an alley in between. If you go up that alley, you'll see the garden on the right. So it was a great day. This is a picture of all our staff. Keith built in a walking labyrinth, which is really cool. We had to shoot it from above to be able to get it into the picture. But that's one of the things I think that everyone here is most proud of. One more picture, because if two or more of us are gathered, there will be food and drink. So we had a great time out there that day. Most recently, we opened our Covey's Bistro. That was built into the original structure there several years ago. It was never opened. There was some hesitation from our former dining services provider and, of course, COVID. So with the help of my colleague, Rosie Velasco, who's our Chief Healthcare Officer, but also is responsible for dining services. She worked with the new team, and you'll see about them in a minute, but we were able to get the Cove East. I promised the residents a long time ago we'd get it open by end of the year. So I think it was like December the 28th or 9th or something like that we did open up. But it's really neat. It's not open to the public, but if you want to go and have lunch there, stop by here and find one of us. We'll take you over there as a representative of one of our churches. But it is a second dining venue for all of our residents. And we do have residents from the Lakeside building, this building, that walk to the bistro. I think a lot of Cove East, a lot of Cove West residents use it. Right now, it's open essentially for kind of a late breakfast through lunch kind of a range. We do not offer dinner there. So this is Sodexo. They came on board December the 1st, and that ended about a 6-month process of making a change from one dining services provider to another. The Hearthstone, we contract out the oversight of our dining services, and as you can see from this team, they brought in a general manager, that's Joe Barron. John Eldridge is one of our employees. John is one of our longest tenured employees. Our new chef, Morgan Clements, and one of these ladies is the operations manager, and one of these ladies is the registered dietitian. They all work for Sodexo, but they work for us. Joe and his team, they report up to Rosie, and Rosie manages that department from the Hearthstone's level. But we're very proud to have them here. The board had a meal between our board meeting and this meeting, and I think, generally speaking, a lot of positive comments related to that opportunity. I end up in every slide. This is not by intention. So the next thing that we're also extremely proud of is the gift shop. We're very fortunate to have a resident here, Sylvia Pugh, who has a long history working in retail, kind of knows everything there is to know about retail. I was showing off your gift shop today of how it's all laid out and arranged, and it's just, you feel like you're walking into a Neiman Marcus. What was the company you worked for? I never can remember the name of it. Yeah, so people nodding on that name. I'm clearly not from around here, so that's not a name I recognize. But that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work. We did all the work internally here with our renovations group, but Sylvia designed it, laid it out. She and her partner, Tim, they really picked out all of the fixtures and lighting, mirrors, mannequins, you name it. So if you're here sometime, please go and visit our gift shop. We're very, very proud of that. The Hearthstone had a gift shop years ago. The best thing I understand is it went away when they remodeled the new dining room that we have now. These are more shots of the gift shop, all done by volunteers. Sylvia leads a large group of residents. They give up their time. They price everything. They check everybody in and out. It's really quite fantastic. So talking about the gift shop and getting that open, and that is adjacent to our dining room. So if you're in our main dining room, literally above us right here, you will see the gift shop. The dining room renovations happened, best I can understand, 2019 going into 2020, and we're really sort of finished and wrapped up just in time for COVID when we couldn't let anybody go to the dining room. So things kind of stalled. One of the things that did not happen was artwork. It was just white walls pretty much in the whole dining room. So we were fortunate to have two residents at the time who are, one's a lifelong artist, one has spent most of his third act or beyond in art and creating. And that's Keith Arts that you saw earlier laying on the grass. So about half of the artwork in the dining room came from him. The other half came from the late Clifford Berkey. Man, I struggle with his last name. Clifford was a great guy, tall, lanky guy. We lost him a week or two ago, and it was sad. He'd lived here a long time, was 99 years old. But his artwork and Keith's artwork, they allowed us, they essentially gave us rights to have their original watercolor paintings photographed in high resolution, and then we reproduced those, framed those, and hung those in a dining room. So this is what it looks like today. I'm particularly proud of, there's a large painting over the fireplace, and if you've been coming here for years, you know that there used to be a set of wooden trees that sat there. They were beautiful. They're now in the lobby behind the reception desk. You can see them there even better than you could see them in the dining room. But, you know, they're just, I don't even remember the count now, 30-some, 31 paintings. And they're just the kind of paintings you'd see in a museum that you could just walk and stare at and enjoy for a long time. I think there is a second picture. These are some more close-ups. This painting of poppies here was Clifford's. And we pushed to get that one hung first. And that frame around it, Keith Arts that you saw earlier, he made that. That's a very special painting to all of us. It's huge. I mean, those are books. Whoops, those are books. So you can kind of see how many books wide that thing is, and it sits up high above some bookcases. So it's really, again, if you come back here, it's just around the corner from the gift shop. So stop there, and then come in and take a look. These are smaller paintings. I wish they were blown up, but those are all teacups, tea kettles, teapots in their native habitat. So you almost have to see it to enjoy it and appreciate it. But so many really interesting and I think very creative, beautiful paintings now adorn our dining room. So no more blank walls in the dining room. Another program that we started this year, where again we were very fortunate. My predecessors raised their hand when they were giving out bicycles, and so we were able to get two of these, they call them trishaws. So it's like a rickshaw with a driver in the back. The one you see here seats two people, as you can see, and there's Keith again, and two here. And then there's one in the back room that we don't use quite as often, but it actually has an area where you can roll in a wheelchair. You roll in backwards. So the resident in the wheelchair, or these two residents in the other bike is in the lobby, but they have a 180-degree view as they ride on these bikes. The driver of the bike, in this case, and he's not here tonight, but that's Frank Greif. He's the vice president of our resident council. But we have resident volunteers from the community that will pedal these bikes. They're power assist, so you really can't go wrong. They'll climb a hill if you're too tired to pedal. But to be able to have a resident, and it was actually the, I don't know if it was the garden net. No, it was Pastor Leslie's ceremony where we had a resident from our health center that was taken over. I think his wife actually pushed him over there. It's mostly downhill. But then we were able to put him in that bike that's in the back of the room and drive him back in that. And he just said it kind of was the most enjoyable thing he'd done in a long, long time. So it's really a cool program. It's called Cycling Without Age. Many communities have been able to get these. These we received through a grant program. Again, that goes back 3 or 4 years, but we were able to, they showed up one day when they finally opened up the supply chain, and it's been great to have them. We also are very proud of reopening part of the lower level, the floor directly underneath us. There's a workout gym, fitness gym, but it wasn't being used very much. There are some residents that would go and learn the machines and do it themselves. But we partnered with a company called Consonus Therapy. Consonus is actually our therapy provider in our health center, so we had a relationship with them. They have now entered into agreement where they provide a fitness instructor for us, and that young man has an office downstairs. He works with residents that have an interest in using the equipment or learning about things they can do to improve their wellness overall. In addition, we have, I think, yeah, so it's kind of a combined slide, I think. Let's see. No. So in addition to the fitness center, and we are looking at remodeling that area, refreshing that area a little bit. It hasn't had a lot of attention since long before COVID. But we have a fitness area, workout room. We have a therapy room there, so residents in independent living can receive therapy services from Consonas on the lower level. Previously, they either had to have therapy come to their apartments, they could come into the health center, into that therapy room, or go out to another provider somewhere. So we think this is really a benefit to our residents in independent living. We also have opened a wellness clinic on the lower level. We have our doctor of record for our house doctor for our skilled nursing area. He and a nurse are here a couple of days a week. Residents can call and make appointments to see them. If they have some issue that they really don't want to go out or make an appointment with their primary, they can get medical attention here at the community. So that again, most of these things have happened in the past, but were closed down for COVID. But we found a good provider. We're very pleased to have Consonas work with us, as well as Noble Physicians, who provides for the wellness clinic. All of you know what this is if you followed the rules tonight. We had a system in place to do some screening. It was very cursory. It was when I first got here, I was surprised we didn't have more problems with it. But we stepped up this year. We implemented AccuShield. AccuShield is a company that's been around for many, many years, long before COVID. If you've ever been to a convention or conference and you had to check in on a kiosk like this and get a badge, it was probably AccuShield that provided that service. So this has helped us a great deal, especially with visitors. You'll hear a little bit more about visitors in a minute, but it's just an important part of what we've been able to put together. We also had an opportunity come to us where we suddenly lost our salon provider. So an outside company, they were supposed to give us a minimum of 30 days notice. They were sending emails to former members of our administration. And so they finally called and got me and gave us 2 weeks notice that they were leaving. So we lost the ability for our residents to have in-house salon services. So we took that opportunity to remodel that space. Again, our in-house renovations team did a great job of refreshing and really improving the salon. And then we found a replacement provider, a company called PS Salons, a company I've been familiar with for years. They provide excellent service. Generally speaking, I think the residents are pleased that we have those services available. Our salon's on the lower level if you ever want to go see that. It's on the same level with the Wellness Center and the Wellness Clinic. That concludes that part of the fun stuff. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Lee for closing remarks, and then we'll go from there. So when you're ready, these are here if you want them, but only the questions.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And
You
that's
keep
for
that.
you. Okay.
You keep that, okay. I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight. And for those of you either online or listening, thank you for what you either do or are here at the Hearthstone. The Hearthstone is a wonderful place to be, whether you're a resident, whether you're an employee here, or whether you're a supporter of the Hearthstone. The goal of our Board of Trustees is to be the long-term solution and the place to be, the beacon of light here in the Green Lake area. Our biggest asset is our location, but we also have tremendous assets in all of our employees and most importantly, all of our residents. So we are very thankful for what each of you do, whether you're a resident, whether you're on the board, whether you're an employee. We're thankful for everything that you do. The last thing we need to do, we need votes from the voting members, is to adjourn the business meeting. Then we're going to go into some questions that we asked from the residents were sent in for us. So I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn the business meeting. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Second? Great. Okay, so for the representatives from each of the congregations, all in favor of adjourning the business part of the meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? If you really want the meeting to go on longer, you could have opposed it. Okay. Great, thank you. Motion passes. Prior to, this was probably 3 weeks ago, we, myself as the chair and our vice chair, Caitlin Grant, we have quarterly meetings with the resident council leadership. So with Therese and Frank, it used to be Sylvia, and now it's Therese and Frank. And we specifically said we want to hear questions from residents that we as the Board of Trustees can provide answers to. So we asked them to chat with the various floor chairs and gather information on what questions residents have for us. So we are thankful for all of the questions that were submitted. We've reviewed them. We're going to go through them here one at a time. We are going to provide answers as best we can. It's good for this type of communication to be continued, and the current method of resident council meetings with representatives from the board seems to work well, but we also know we can always strive to improve that level of communication and trust. So we're going to go through, if I hit the space bar, right? There we go. Okay. First question. What are the board's plans to add resident members as ex officio seats to the board? These could be non-voting members and excused for confidential matters. Resident representation on the Board of Trustees seems to be a fairly consistent question throughout all residents. As a reminder, the Board of Trustees, again, not Board of Directors, but the Board of Trustees is an oversight and strategic board, and we do not get involved much in the day-to-day operations of the Hearthstone. The board's sole employee is the CEO of the Hearthstone, Reggie, and we work and support him in his efforts to run the Hearthstone. The board has to maintain an arm's length between the board and the Hearthstone leadership, while at the same time avoiding any conflict of interest between the board and current or future residents. While we are not at this time supporting the addition of residents to the board, we do believe that we need to do a better job of communicating and building relationships between board members and residents. So to that end, we are going to pursue the following action items. Activating an email address for residents to use to reach out to the board directly for board appropriate topics. So not, I didn't like the meal last night that we had at dinner, but it's, hey, something's going on here. I'm going to say this, it's not true. Reggie's embezzling money, I think, that kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff, and he's not, trust me, he's not. That's the kind of stuff that you could reach out to the board on. Number two, providing an entry in the monthly newsletter that goes out, that's sent out to all residents. We are going to be adding 1 to 2 residents, and Jack already talked about this, to the Hearthstone Foundation board. So we have our board of the Hearthstone. There will be a second board for the foundation that will probably have 5 members, and 1 or 2 of those are going to be residents, because that's going to be the conduit for when there are funds available from the foundation to utilize. We absolutely want and need that resident input. We're going to look to increase the meeting cadence between board leadership and resident council leadership. Right now, we meet 4 times a year. We think we need to do more of that. Fifth, we are going to encourage all of our board members to attend the occasional resident gatherings. I know pre-COVID, there was lots of opportunities for board folks to come and visit and be, whether it's up at dinner or just having in your various meetings. COVID kind of messed that up. So now that we're slowly coming out of COVID, we want the ability for our board members to come and chat with you, listen to you, and help you understand what we're doing, but also for us to understand where you're coming from. And lastly, we're going to look to implement some occasional visits of residents to participate and view part of our Hearthstone board meetings. So we understand that there's a desire to have somebody on the board. We can't do that, but we can certainly work to set up some time when there are residents, probably leaders of the resident council, we think, but we'll work through those details, where they will attend parts of our board meeting. While residents on the board is not a current solution, we do desire to increase the communication between all parties, residents, leadership, and the board. We believe that these actions I previously mentioned will help us to improve the relationship between residents and the board. We'll continue to listen and tweak the things being done so that we can all provide a better environment here at the Hearthstone. That was question number 1. 5 more to go. This was I love this question. Is there a dollar amount limit that the CEO can spend without board approval? Love to know who asked. No, I'm kidding. At this time, no, there's not. There is a very strong relationship between the CEO, the financial side of the Hearthstone, and the Board of Trustees. There are frequent and ongoing communications that happen, whether that's monthly reports coming from Jack and his team. We talk about finances at every single board meeting. In particular, when there is large expenses, we typically know about those ahead of time. Reggie has worked with his leadership team. We're figuring it out. We're trying to say, well, that's going to be a big number, whether it's replacing a piece of equipment or things like that. We monitor that, so we don't put a limit on him, but he absolutely communicates with us and with the finance committee to make sure they understand, hey, we're going to have to replace the air conditioning unit or whatever it happens to be. We understand that those things will happen. Sometimes they're planned, sometimes they're not planned. We also have a yearly audit done by an outside third party, and that report doesn't go to Reggie and the finance team. That audit report comes to the board and the finance committee on the board. So there is definite oversight of what we're spending to make sure that we're making the right decisions. Okay, question 3, I think this one's yours, Reggie. You're gonna have to come up and talk again.
So I appreciate this question, and I'll read for you why have so many long-term employees left employment at the Hearthstone. There are a lot of variables in that question, like so many, I don't know what defines so many. I also don't know what this person was asking about long-term. So what we did, I worked with our HR department. We looked at employees that have been here 5 years or more. We feel like that in today's area, the labor market, 5 years is a long time to stay with one employer. Didn't used to be that way. It used to be 30 years. So we ran some numbers. We took a look of all the employees that left our employment, and actually, I looked at the period of time from when I started on November 1st of 2021 up through this month. So it's about a 15-month stretch. And we looked at all the terminations, the separations that we'd had of our employees. And about 17% of those people that left were in that 5-year or more category. So it's a lot of folks. However, that list gets a little smaller if you just look at full-time. We have a lot of part-time staff, and if you don't know the impact of COVID and this great resignation, the influence of Seattle minimum wage, if you follow that, how extreme that has gotten, that's allowed a lot of people to not work a second and third job. So we've lost a lot of part-time people that worked here a long time that just said, I really don't have to do this anymore. And I can't say as I blame them. So we boiled it down. There were 9 5-year tenured or longer employees, full-time employees, that left us in that 15-month period of time. Of those, one employee simply did not come back after they took a leave of absence. So they were out for whatever reason, they did not return. 2 employees were laid off because their positions were eliminated. We did make some changes here over the course of the last 15 months. So there were 2 people who left because their positions were eliminated, again, over 5 years. We unfortunately lost an employee. We had an employee pass away. 2 employees resigned, indicated to us they were taking jobs elsewhere. 2 employees retired. One went to her little celebration. We did it out on the lake and was finishing up 25 years. And I guarantee you, she's still working, doing something. She hit 25 here. She was good. And then we had one employee that was terminated, unfortunately, for failing to follow our COVID restrictions. And because we're pretty tough on that, we want to keep our residents safe. So all in all, 9 for a total of 6 different reasons, certainly not epidemic in nature, but we do value our workforce. We actually have, and I don't have the statistic, I just know that we have a lot of employees that have been here 20 years or more. Some of them headed for retirement. I don't think any of them would ever leave. And I'll tell you why. What the secret sauce is, it's not my doing. Somebody a long time ago started it. But our residents, throughout the year and especially in November and as we go into December, they contribute to an employee fund. And then with our help, they make a decision, but we help facilitate the number of hours every employee works, and this is for hourly employees. And then we take that fund that they have accumulated over that period of time, and we then distribute it out just before the holidays for our staff. And it's a big deal. For somebody making, minimum wage here is like 19 now, 18.50, 19, something like that. And so to get a check because you worked here full-time for a year, to get a check in excess of $2,000 is a big deal. Our staff are so appreciative, and I'm appreciative that we have a resident council that helps lead that, gathers those funds. They sat and wrote checks, a bunch of them. I watched them in the boardroom one day. I think it was one of the most fun things a lot of people had done for our staff. So it's a great place to work. Yes, people have left our employment. Yes, we've made some minor changes in our operation, but generally speaking, there has not been a large number of longtime staff that have left here. I can't remember what's
Great.
next.
I got the next one. You can stay here, though, because you got the one after that. Okay, the fourth question out of 6 was, has the board discussed, quote, the commitment to continuing care retirement practices with the CEO and WACRA, say that acronym 5 times fast, and what, if any, are the board's plans to implement this commitment, including developing a Bill of Rights and Responsibilities for management and residents? WACRA is an advocacy group that works with the legislature to improve the facilities that provide care for, that work with CCRCs to improve what they provide to their residents. So we have not done the research yet. We talked about it at our board meeting. This is going to be on our task list for the next couple months, is to really do some research into WACRA, into these Bill of Rights, the responsibilities, and figure out exactly where and how it fits in with what we do at the Hearthstone. Absolutely, we want and need to improve what we do here every single day. We want to take a look at what that group is coming up with and see kind of how it fits within what we do here at the Hearthstone. So as we get more information, we will be communicating that out as to what ties in, what doesn't tie in, how it may fit with our mission here at the Hearthstone. So that's, you can be aware that that'll be coming soon. Okay, the next one is Reggie's.
So I don't know if an assisted living resident asked this question or an independent living resident asked this question, because where the question came from really impacts the answer. We certainly didn't intend to exclude assisted living residents from some meetings we had. So about 2-3 weeks ago, we held 2 meetings for our independent living residents to allow them to, I think we called it, see how the sausage is made. They wanted to understand how we came up with our rental increases for this year. The rental increases, we notified residents right at the end of November. They went into effect January 1st. And when it was a broader range. I won't go into a lot of detail, but some residents got a 10% increase in their rent. But it had to do with what their apartment and others like it are sold for today to new residents versus what they were paying. And we had an average variance here at the Hearthstone. All independent living apartments, we had a variance of an average of 25% below what those apartments are sold for today in terms of monthly fee. So we did an analysis and looked at the variance, and that determined what an individual resident's increase would be. It's fairly complicated. It took us an hour to explain it. We did that twice on the same day, and we broke up the independent residents into this building and then independent residents from the 2 Cove buildings. We have a limitation. You can see we marked the seats you can't sit in, so we had a cap of 60, but it worked out. We had approximately 50 or a little over for each meeting, and we didn't intend to exclude AL residents. They weren't invited because these were IL meetings. Further, AL residents did not get a rent increase this year for 2023. They didn't get one for 2022 either. There are reasons for that. It has largely to do with where we sit competitively for assisted living. Most of our competitors for assisted living are assisted living only communities, like the company I came from, Merrill Gardens. That's what they do. They're for profit. They run assisted living communities and memory care, and many of those are newer, shinier, and you know, it's a great company. I love working for them. Spent 10 years there. But when I first came here and toured our assisted living and memory care areas, I knew that we had a lot of work to do. That's another area we hope to be able to begin renovations and refreshing this year. I think if we have, pardon the business term, but a product that is more desirable in the marketplace, that we might be able to increase those rents over time. But the point is, they didn't come to a rental increase discussion meeting because they didn't get rental increases. We did increase their care costs. Overall, care went up about 7%, and that was all disclosed to them in a letter that they got at the same time the independent living residents did, that, you know, indicates, you know, here's what your new care level would be, but your rent's not going up. And the explanation in the letter is very basic. Care ties directly to labor costs, and labor costs have just gone through the roof. We didn't adjust care for 2022. We felt like we had to do it for 2023. So technically, it was an average of 3.5% spread over 2 years, but turned into 7% for this year. So I apologize. We will, Rosie and I will talk about how we can communicate with our AL residents so they don't feel like they were left out. The one thing you have to understand is that many of our residents in assisted living and all of our residents in memory care, they don't make financial decisions for themselves. They have family, they have responsible parties, power of attorneys that manage their business. So one of the fun things we do here is we have to sort the mail that goes into those areas, because a family member will say, don't show mom her bill because she won't understand it and she'll think it's outrageous. She'll start packing. And so, you know, this is what we have to be aware of. So I felt badly when I saw this question. You know, they weren't invited, they weren't a part of that, but we will do something with them to talk about why care costs went up and invite families to be a part of that.
Great. Okay, there's one more question that you guys as residents submitted, and I'm going to ask Rosie to come up and answer this. After she's done answering this question, I'm going to ask Chaplain Leslie to come up and offer a benediction, and then we'll break the meeting. The board members and delegates will remain up front, and so you can mingle with them, and then about 5 or 10 minutes after that, if the board members could jump back into the boardroom, that would be great. So, Rosie, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear that? Yeah. Great. Okay, so very excited to announce this. I'm excited. Well, can I have the question? When will COVID rules be reduced enough to allow guests in our dining room? So, rewind. Still very excited to announce that on Monday, February 20th, it's this upcoming Monday, the Hearthstone will once again welcome visitors to join our residents in group dining and group activities. So thank you all so much for your patience in this long, long journey toward reopening 100% here at the Hearthstone. So before you ask what has changed, I will give you a short answer, and that is Cove East had a positive case on February 6th, which was defined as an outbreak. February 20th will be the 14-day cycle. We can open on the 20th. That's all I have to say, except for more details to come in a written announcement. So we will all continue to mask. We will check in with our AccuShield screening. And there will be instructions on making reservations for your guests to dine with you. That's it. Thank you very much.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord's face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and grant you peace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.